all great things, that you're talking about for Mike Brown, it ultimately didn't end that great because he did get fired from Sacramento. And why did he get fired?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the second season wasn't nearly as good, right? The Kings in that second season, they lost a bunch of games to the worst teams in basketball. I think in that season they lost a game to Charlotte, they lost a game to Portland, they lost a game to Detroit, they lost a game to the Wizards. And when you're looking at a team that had aspirations of winning 50 plus games, and you come up with 46, and I can point to 4 or 5 games against the worst teams in basketball that you lost, that's really a tough pill to swallow,
Mm,
right? And that's why they drop all the way down to what, ninth in the standings, and they're in the play-in, they don't make the playoffs and all that stuff. Um, I just think that there was a disconnect, and to be honest with you, some of it is on the players. You had Kevin Huerter, who basically went to the All-Star weekend the year before and couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, as a 3-point shooter in the 3-point contest. And then it really got in his head, and he really had a tough go, especially in the playoffs when they lost to Golden State in 7 games. In the first year of Mike Brown, we call
hmm
that here in Sacramento Beam Team One. That's when the beam was invented.
hmm
So Beam Team Two, you started to see that, some of the practice like started wear on some of the players. Some of the players started to get comfortable and let their personalities come out a little bit more. And maybe some of those personalities weren't exactly like 100% team oriented,
mm
right? And so you had some of these little cracks start to form.
mm.
But again, Mike practiced hard and pushed the guys a lot. And so you get to that summer between the Beam Team Two and Beam Team Three, and I think you started to have some factions in the locker room, guys that weren't happy about their position, weren't happy about their sort of their place in Mike Brown's hierarchy. Even guys like Malik Monk, who was really, really hoping to start. He
mm.
was going into that offseason as a free agent, and he ended up getting his deal. But at the same time he got his deal, he wanted to start. And that's not something Mike Brown wanted or was comfortable with. And, for me, it's a little bit like what he's going to face in New York, except for Jordan Clarkson understands he's not going to start. Jordan Clarkson
hmm
understands that being a great six man has a tremendous amount of value. And, it's got him paid his entire career, just like it's getting Malik Monk paid. But there's just like this little bits of friction here and there, a little bit of like some of the players hoping to go in just a little bit of a stylistic change in the way that they're going into the next season. And for Mike, he kept asking for the one basic thing that everybody here in Sacramento has been asking for the last like 5 or 6 years, and that's more length and athleticism at the wings. And whether it was Kyle Kuzma or John Collins rumors or Cam Johnson rumors, like the Kings were chasing these guys, but never ever got a deal done. And so you're walking into seasons with, just an undersized roster the
hmm
whole time where, Keegan Murray is playing the four, and, then you're asking Keegan Murray to guard point guards one night and LeBron James the next night because you don't have any other defenders. And so while Mike is trying to build up the defensive acumen of the team, especially in that second season, there, really the focus was defense. Then he ends up losing Jordy Fernandez as his defensive coordinator. And not only that, but Jordy he was more than just an assistant coach. He was what do they call him? He was a second in charge. He was,
Associate head coach.
associate head coach. Yeah, exactly. And so losing Jordy in that going into that second season too, an associate head coach does all kinds of things that you don't even think about. Like Jordy Fernandez worked the sub patterns from the sidelines. So
Mm.
Mike's coaching the team and Jordy's putting guys in and out of the game the whole time. Well, you take away Jordy from doing that, and Mike promoted Luke Laux. He promoted Luke Laux to his defensive coordinator, even though Laux had been an offensive guy both in Golden State and in Sacramento. And there are just these little things that just weren't setting right with that team. And unfortunately, between not getting the pieces that they needed in the offseason, going into the season with again, if you can't get a trade done for Cam Johnson, you miss out on a couple other players. The response was for the Kings to go out and do a sign and trade for DeMar DeRozan. Again, not exactly built for their offense, not exactly a defensive stalwart. It really just kind of set in motion something that you could kind of see happening. And also during that offseason, Mike had asked for a new contract. And basically, what had happened was when they signed Mike to his original deal, they gave him a 3-year contract and they wanted a fourth-year team option.
Mm,
Mike and his agent demanded a fourth-year mutual option. And when coaching salaries skyrocketed with the Monty Williams contract, and then all of the other coaches getting their contracts raised up, Mike was going into his third season as number one. He opted out of his fourth season because that's when he had to opt out,
mm,
and he opted out because contracts had skyrocketed, and then he was able to negotiate a deal at a 3-year deal where they tore up his third year in Sacramento and gave him a bump from like 5 million to 8.5 million, but also put incentives in that he could get up to 10 million bucks as a coach.
mm,
And it was a 3-year deal, but in that negotiation, I think that's where bad blood started. And like sometimes you pay a guy knowing that you might not keep him. And I was surprised that if that's how they felt, they probably should have just fired him during the offseason and paid him
mm,
out, the 5 million they owed him. But instead, they gave him a 3-year contract and then fired him 20 something games into the season. By that point, like, look, things were going wrong, and I can, like, honestly, being here, you're watching the team play, and they're not playing up to their potential. And at some point, the voice in the locker room, he wasn't garnering the same connection with the players. And I don't know why it happened so quickly, but I'll also tell you, like, there were groups of players that loved Mike and groups of players that were hoping to move on from Mike.
mm,
And I don't think they were pulling the right way. The team itself wasn't pulling the right way and really made things awkward, in general. And it's why we get to Mike Brown getting let go. It started a chain reaction in Sacramento. This led to a lot of negativity. Like,
mm,
De'Aaron Fox had told the team during the offseason that he didn't want to play for another coach in Sacramento. He wanted to play for Mike Brown, and that if they wanted to move off of Mike Brown during that offseason, that they should trade him as well. So when they went in to fire and they fired Mike, it was with the understanding that De'Aaron Fox didn't want to be there anymore if Mike wasn't going to be there. And so they instantly looked for a place for De'Aaron Fox to go. And just one thing after another kind of played out to where that season, not only did the season go bad, but it's really hurt the franchise and set them up on a dark path for the next couple of years, barring some crazy luck or some teams deciding to take on some of the contracts that they have that are now just bloated and really difficult to move.